So just thinking then about how does an organisation set its culture up to enable people to be productive? Where does that fit in with all the other stuff that they're trying to get done?
You know, it's interesting. I think that if you were to, just look in the press or just the way that managers and leaders are talking, I think setting a culture is something that's really top of mind for all of them. They all say, we really want to have a winning culture. And yet, why is it so difficult? And I think in some cases it's so difficult because it isn't a lack of intellectual knowledge about what we need to do, because there's plenty of good documents they've created and they have their conferences and all and what have you. But people are just overloaded, they're just so much in a reactive mode that it's very difficult to be proactive. And I think what we can do in our work as productivity ninjas is to clear the decks and give them room to think. And then with room to think and a better order to the way they plan their weeks and their days, there's now the ability to say, hey, I'm going to dedicate 2 hours to pulling that binder off the shelf, blow off the dust, and to actually implement the things that we said we were going to do in our strategic plan or what have you. And that's great for culture. I think it gets the culture that they want.
And I guess from some of the clients that you've worked with, or where you've seen this in organisations, what's been the kind of key factors for making that work? What have been the successes?
Well, I've seen a really simple example. An obvious example would be getting your inbox to zero. We work with in that email management piece, and people are just overloaded. And I've found that in a group where I had programmers and an HR person and another person from finance and that sort of thing, and to have universally people feeling like, I've cleared the decks, and now I feel like tomorrow I can go to work and get started on that project I've been avoiding. Yeah. And I think as a past client, what were your experiences when you saw?
Yeah, I mean, we, as a lot of us did the Think Productive training at the same time.
Yeah. So
when new staff have come into the organisation, we've sent on public workshops, they've had the book. I always sat down and said, look, this is why we do this is how it works. So for me, it was about trying to create a culture within the organisation where people could do the stuff.
Yeah.
So we had a quieter room.
Yeah.
So a room with no phones. If you're working in that room, you're not being disturbed by other people. Reception take a message for you. They don't come and disturb you to see if you're taking calls.
Oh, it's a culture of respect.
Going dark.
Yeah.
And things like agenda items where people trying to get away from that culture of you walk up to somebody's desk and you say, are you busy? And they're like, I was, now you've distracted me. Or just emailing people at the desk next to you. So we tried a thing where 11 o'clock in the morning, everybody who was in the office got together and you go and talk to people in the office that you want to talk to. So if you're sat at your desk, you think, I need to talk to Sarah about that.
Yeah.
Rather than going and disturbing Sarah or sending Sarah an email, you make a note of that, then 11 o'clock comes around and you and Sarah have a chat, and that kind of worked really well.
Yeah. One of the things I've seen is that there's a bit of a misnomer or a confusion out there in the world that says that a productive workplace has to be a noisy workplace, and from that perspective, what you've seen is that if you could be highly productive and yet it'd be almost a calm and relaxing type of environment. Yeah, and that's exactly what I think. When you see a lot of other management consulting types of solutions that are out there, they're great. However, the necessary condition is that people have to be in a space to learn. And so to get the culture you want, you almost have to clear the decks first. And that's what I think that the Think Productive solutions can really help people do.
And where you've seen that being implemented, particularly in big organisations, what's been the driving force behind that? Is it somebody saying, right, we're going to do this? Or is it the staff team saying, we need this? Where does it tend to come from? Do you have a sense of that?
I think that it starts with the client, the company that I'm speaking with, recognizing that they have a problem. So that's why they took the meeting in the first place. They were willing to come in. They sought us out or said, yes, that sounds interesting. And and then just by being able to ask the questions of what's preventing you from doing your best work, or tell me what's going on in your environment that you don't particularly like, and inevitably there's a sense of people don't seem to be having fun, and I like the fact that you in your materials, Michael, you've said we bring playful, productive momentum, that sort of thing. Yeah. Boy, there's nothing playful about our workplace right now. Not a lot of smiles, and so by asking, what's causing that, generally we're finding that something like how people work, or just the impact of too many emails coming in, or our meetings are really a drain on time and everybody's pretty miserable as a result of that. Some of those things are usually at the heart of it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So what top tips would you give an organisation in terms of where do you start culturally as an organisation rather than starting with the individual productivity? Or is that where you start? I guess it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah, it really is. I think it's very different for every organization.
Yeah.
Often it starts with a discussion around having the confidence to be able to talk about the problems, and
because people don't want to, because it's challenging.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm a big fan of the concept of real leadership, and so I suppose where it really starts is the leader having a willingness to take a look at the problem, and so we run a workshop called How to Be a Productivity Ninja, and in that process, in that workshop, we uncover 9 of the key characteristics of people who are really mastering their work environment and enjoying both work and life.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at those characteristics, they tend to be things around balancing, not taking on too much, being ruthless about interruptions. So I would say a good place to start would be to explore, those characteristics. And so we have a workshop that does that. But sometimes people are saying, listen, I want a very clear outcome, and for sure, email is a big problem for us. So let's start with the inbox zero.
Yeah. Because I guess that's a clear outcome, but the stuff in Productivity Ninja is about, okay, you can do these things, but how do you get the culture of your team or your organisation to change to allow you to work in those ways?
Yeah.
And that's I find that really.
Yeah, and sometimes we often see. I mean, we're very flexible and willing to look at it from any perspective. You could do something very tactical like an inbox zero first, and then work on something that could be very useful for culture change later on, but it could work the other way around. And so when it comes to the biggest impact on culture and teams and the organization all swimming in the same direction, working on agreements. For instance, we have a course called Making Meetings Magic, and in that course, people will come, one of the outputs is a meetings manifesto, which is, we all have contributed to this, we all agree this is the way we're going to run meetings, because the way we're doing it today is, death by PowerPoint, or it's, there's a lot of that, or too many meetings that aren't necessary, same meeting over and over again, no progress being made, too much time taken away from my productive work, and so on. So if you can, as a group, contribute to an output where everybody has contributed, everybody's agreed to, and then it could be something on the wall that says, hey, hold on, remember what we all agreed to? Yeah. That can be really powerful. And we do that also with, and we could have an email charter that says, this is the way we're going to use emails, because we don't want to abuse one another with our poor communications anymore.
And I think that's really good for new staff coming in as well, to say this is how we do it, and this is why.
Yeah. And the best way to learn something is to teach it. So if you can have a second generation learning in that, yes, you did the workshop and you contributed and we're living it, and we've got some repetitive something there on the wall to
Yeah.
remind us of it. But really, when you then take the time to impart it to new people coming in, boy, then it really cements, and that's a more permanent, that's a
Yeah.
quantum leap
Yeah.
for culture change.
And it's a reminder to everybody as they're going.
Mm-hmm.